Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I haven't done any video since morning because I took my time to read through the revival of the ICC cases. And of course, today I want to just look at it deeply. So wherever you're watching, just sit down and let's have a discussion as I analyze on the rebirth of ICC cases. The very critical questions that I want you to ask yourself first. Who is reviving the ICC cases? What is the impact on these cases on 2022 general elections? And the third question, why now? So let me give you a little bit of a background of ICC cases. Post-election violence of 2007 is what led to Kenya, going to ICC after local prosecution could not be executed. Now we all know that in 2013, Uhuru and Ruto came together to rally their supporters over just around the ICC cases. This is because this was a very emotive topic that was going to let them be voted in. Uhuru will then go and tell Kikuyu Nation that he's in ICC because he fought for them. Same with William Ruto. And actually by then, they even used a narrative that they were in ICC because of Raila Odinga. That is why Uhuru Kenyatta was willing to support Musalia Mudavadi for presidency to face off with Raila Odinga. And of course, they won on that ticket emotively, telling the residents about it. Both of them faced charges against humanity. While Ruto was blamed or accused of plotting plotting violence in Rift Valley, Joshua Rapsang, who was already a journalist, also faced because he talked about something on Madoadoa. Uhuru Kenyatta was accused of the retaliatory attacks against Kikuyus in the Naivasha. So you remember all that. But then these cases, Uhuru Kenyatta's case was terminated. But if you follow keen, you will realize that William Ruto's case was just vacated. That means to just put on hold because of two reasons. One was political interference and witness interference. Now, this opened loopholes for these cases to be revived. Now, one of the lawyers in that case, not even one of the lawyers, one of the key witnesses in that case, Mesha Kibei, disappeared in December of 2015, and 3 days later, 2014, and 3 days later, his lifeless body was found in Savo. Paul Gicheru, who was a resident of, is actually a resident of, who stayed in Eldoret, and was a classmate to William Ruto, was a lawyer. He was actually grilled at The Hague in 2015, and there was a warrant of arrest on him. So on 2020, if I'm not wrong, it's either 20 or 21 November, he presented himself to the ICC. And the reason why he presented himself for the ICC was to talk on the witness interference. And actually, ICC linked him that he was in direct conversation with William Ruto people to execute a well-planned witness interference. But why did he do that? That is what happened. So there was a question of why did he present himself? Was he called, or Was it just a political motive? Now, as of now, there are 30 secret audios that have been produced that is linking Paul Gicheru to witness interference. He has come out, and out of these audios, he's actually said that those are audios of witnesses who are recorded, and of course, they were recorded, some of them were recorded under duress, and of course, that is what is now going on at the ICC. So that one, I was just giving you a background of what is happening. Guys, before we proceed to the political implication of these cases, if you're listening to this video for the first time and you're a new person here, kindly take a second and subscribe, like this video, and more importantly, give us your feedback on today's question in this video. Who is bringing back the ghosts of ICC? Now I want to ask, what is the political implication of bringing back the cases? The ICC issue is very emotive in this country. And there are people, when they hear of the word ICC, if you hear of the word ICC cases, it reminds them of the wounds of the 2007, the houses that were torched. There are still people who are in scratches to date because of that, because of what happened. And there are still people who, when they hear of ICC, they stare at the plasters that they're having. And the scars of this country, actually, we are on a healing process. 10 years, over 10 years after that unfortunate incident, there are still people that are determined to return back the ICC cases. Personally, I really stand with President Uhuru Kenyatta. And there are 3 theories on the rebirth of these cases. Let us advance the first theory, that deep state or the government might revive these cases to scuttle William Ruto's campaigns. I want to say a big no. I think President Uhuru Kenyatta personally flew to ICC and knew the psychological torture that he went through just because of the ICC cases. And he's on record saying that this country have moved forward from those things. You remember when DCI tried to revive a PEV, called some PEV women from Eldoret to testify and do some local prosecution? Uhuru Kenyatta was very categorical that those are things that he doesn't want to hear about. And I want you to listen to Uhuru's clip here. That is one. I don't think Uhuru is not in this. Secondly, let us look at the probability of the probability of William Ruto stage managing these things. And you know, William Ruto has been accused of being a stage manager. When Kondele violence happened, it was said that he's the person who planned them for political merit. The Jacaranda incident, it was all over political merit. When Dennis Itumbi was abducted, it was like it was stage managed. And now people ask themselves honestly, is this about him planning for himself? I want to disagree. Because, guys, this is what happens. In every electioneering period, these are things that you'll always hear. When Mudavadi tried to vie in 2013, the Golden Bag scandal was thrown on his way. So William Ruto also, in an interview that I captured at NTV, he had a response as to who is planning these things. Listen to him.
We had people who were hired to go to court here in Kenya after they didn't succeed at The Hague to stop us from running. We had people who were hired to go to court here in Kenya. They did not succeed.
Hired by your political opponents?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now the question is this. Do you think William Ruto can plan for revival of these cases. So this narrative that William Ruto is using the ICC cases to cement the Rift Valley vote by telling them that if you don't vote for me as your president, if I don't get the presidency, then these cases might revive and I might be locked in ICC. I don't buy that narrative, because if you look at Rift Valley, where does he have the problem? The most affected county was Gicheru, which is Eldoret town, and Nakuru and Naivasha. But then, I don't think William Ruto have already peddled a good narrative on hustlers and government projects. So I don't think this is going to be a new narrative, and that is going to water down the power of the hustlers narrative, because that will be a totally different narrative. And I don't think that then, guys, this can be a state-managed affair. However, I'm not saying that it is impossible, because politics, everything is planned and executed for a specific political purpose. And that's why I don't want to rub off that it is impossible. But then, guys, do you think that ICC is just reviving these cases for justice? Some people say that justice delayed is justice denied. I can't agree more. That can also be a probability. But then that is the question. Why now? We are almost heading to general election. Are there some Western forces that are interested to block William Ruto from vying? Remember, this is coming at a time when William Ruto should be very, very, very careful because of the recent Madoadoa slur. Probably, if you ask me, if the revival of these cases can only happen on one reason, to warn politicians against making utterances that can repeat the 2007 post-election violence. Like the recent Madoadoa slur that came out. So this can be revived, plastic, intentionally, ostensibly, to make sure that you remind the politicians that look what? They are still ICC. ICC still exists, but not to block William Samoei Ruto. I might be seen as I'm defending William Ruto on this, but I think I am more objective on the ICC. And the person who was called on this case is William Samoei Ruto. But I think politicians need to be reminded that we cannot warm the drums of war because ICC is still looking. And I welcome the letter that UDA wrote after sending a copy to President Uhuru Kenyatta. They also sent a copy to ICC telling them that, you know what, there's some drums of wars that are really being warmed in Kenya. Guys, what do you think about the rebirth of ICC cases?